A'ja Wilson's whole positive vibes routine just took a massive hit, and fans are starting to see the cracks. For months, she played it cool, acting unbothered, while her fans were dragging Caitlyn Clark through the mud over this Nike signature shoe drama. But now, the truth is out, and it's hilarious. During A'ja's shoe launch, she revealed that she's been sitting on her own shoe deal with Nike for 2 years. That's right, 2 whole years, while everyone was losing their minds, claiming Caitlyn was getting special treatment, screaming that the shoe brand was disrespecting A'ja, the league MVP. And what did Wilson do? She said nothing. She sat back, smiled for the cameras, and let her fans wage war on Caitlyn. Wilson was oddly silent, but complicit. Alright, why was she complicit? Because, well, she knew she was getting a signature shoe for 2 years, and she let Caitlyn Clark take all that hate. Now let's rewind for a second. Remember when social media was in flames over Caitlyn Clark's signature shoe deal? How dare Caitlyn get a shoe before A'ja? They screamed. And through it all, A'ja was right there, letting it play out like she wasn't in the loop. She even fed into the narrative, dropping subtle comments about respect and deserving more on Twitter, giving her fans exactly what they needed to keep up the attacks. But here's the reality. A'ja knew. She knew the whole time that her signature shoe was locked in, being designed, polished, and prepped for release. She knew she was getting her flowers, her bag, her moment, and she still let the world believe Nike had overlooked her for Caitlyn. That's not being unbothered. That's calculated. Do you have any ideas what you will want your future sneaker to look like? I think the biggest thing for me is this: I would love a low-top shoe. I play in a low-top shoe, so that's something that I would love to have carry over, and something that looks good. That's so key to me. Like, let's call it what it is. A'ja let Caitlyn Clark become the scapegoat so she could soak up the sympathy. She let Clark, a rookie at that time, take hit after hit online, all while she watched. And for what? For a few more retweets. For her fan base to scream louder. Because let's be honest, Wilson's fans have been on a mission to drag Caitlyn from the second she stepped into the WNBA. And this shoe controversy, that was their golden ticket. But now, the truth is out. And suddenly, all those passionate A'ja defenders have gone quiet. Funny how that works. It turns out the disrespect wasn't coming from Nike. It was coming from A'ja and the people who let this lie spiral out of control. Caitlyn Clark was just minding her business, trying to elevate the game, while A'ja was playing victim with the narrative. Oh, but here's the real question. If you knew you already had your flowers, the shoe deal, the brand backing, the legacy cemented, why sit back and let your own fans wage war on a rookie? Why let them act like you were some overlooked underdog when, behind the scenes, you were already sitting on a shoe? All it would have taken was a quick tweet, a casual, "Don't worry, my shoe's coming," and all that noise would have stopped. But she didn't. She let it build. She let Caitlyn Clark's name get dragged through the mud like she was some sneaker-stealing villain. And now, suddenly, the truth's out, and all those same people who were foaming at the mouth, screaming about unfair treatment, are backtracking like they didn't spend months launching attacks. But let's be real. This is about more than shoes. This is about how Caitlyn Clark has been treated since the second she stepped into the WNBA. It's like she walked into a room and instantly had a target on her back. She wasn't celebrated, she was resented. Why? Because she brought millions of new fans. Because she made people who never cared about the league suddenly pay attention. Because Nike saw her talent and the numbers and said, yeah, this is the future. Caitlyn didn't take anyone's spot. She didn't cheat the system. She earned that shoe deal the same way she earned her place in the WNBA, and while she was getting shoved on the court, fouled like it was WWE, and slandered online, A'ja Wilson had the power to calm it all down. But she didn't. She stayed silent. And that silence, it said everything. It said, I see what's happening and I'm fine with it. Because if the roles were reversed, if Caitlyn Clark's fans were attacking A'ja Wilson, you'd be hearing about it on every sports network. Think pieces, social media outrage, and ESPN hot takes will be trending on Twitter. You know the drill. But when it's Caitlyn, silence. And it's not just Wilson. Look at Nike. They rolled out a campaign celebrating their female athletes during the Super Bowl. A huge win. But the day after, when they released another commercial, somehow, Caitlyn Clark, the face of women's basketball, the player responsible for the WNBA's record viewership, they threw in a last-minute voiceover like we wouldn't notice. But we did. We saw it. That wasn't an oversight. That was intentional. That was Nike saying, yeah, we like the money she brings in, but we don't want her in the photo. It's my favorite thing of all. So let's take a listen to this. Let's take a listen to this. Nike actually put this one out after the fact. You want to know what I'm selling? Rookie of the Year, Caitlyn Clark. I know you want it cheap, okay? Nike.com. They re-recorded it. Like, that's not even, I mean that. That's like, listen to it. How does this happen? How does the player who's literally transformed the WNBA, the most popular female athlete in all of America, the one whose games are drawing NBA-level numbers, get sidelined? Simple. Because the league, the veterans, the old guard, they don't want her. They'll take the profit she brings, but they won't embrace her. Instead of celebrating Caitlyn Clark, they tolerate her. They use her success but won't protect her when she's being attacked. They treat her like an outsider, as if she hasn't earned every bit of success. A'ja Wilson's silence is just part of the problem. She didn't need to tweet anything nasty. She didn't need to say Caitlyn's name. All she had to do was sit back, let her fans do the dirty work, and enjoy the show. And it worked, until the truth came out during her shoe release. But here's the thing. Caitlyn's still here. She's still breaking records, still selling out arenas, still dominating the headlines. The WNBA can try to push her aside all they want, but the fans know, the sponsors know, and deep down, even the haters know, Caitlyn Clark is the future, but the real damage isn't to Caitlyn. She's built for this. It's the league that's suffering. You can't treat your biggest star like a problem and expect to grow. Every shove, every snub, every fake controversy, they all make the WNBA look small, insecure, and unprepared for what Caitlyn Clark is bringing. The sales don't lie. The crowds don't lie. The viewership don't lie. Caitlyn Clark is the biggest thing to ever happen to the WNBA, and the way she's being treated is a disgrace. So yeah, A'ja got her shoe. Good for her. But the way this all played out, the months of fake outrage, the attacks on Caitlyn, the lies, it exposed something ugly. It showed us that for all the talk about growing the game, some of these so-called leaders would rather protect their egos than embrace the future. Caitlyn Clark is that future. Whether they like it or not, she's not going anywhere. And as for A'ja Wilson, congrats on the shoes, but next time, maybe use your voice for more than just sneaker launches. A'ja Wilson is out here celebrating her signature shoe deal, flexing that new A1 sneaker like it's the WNBA trophy. And you know what? She should be proud. A signature shoe is a massive achievement for any athlete, especially in women's basketball. But while A'ja's out here doing photo ops and soaking up the praise, she might not realize she's also accidentally exposed the double standard that's been hanging over the league like a dark cloud ever since Caitlyn Clark arrived. The press tour has officially took off running. We got A'ja Wilson talking about, oh, I've been waiting 2 years for this. Wait, 2 years for this. 2 years for this. 2025, 2023, CC's announced in 2024. Delayed, not denied, in 2024, backlash all 2024. I've been waiting 2 years for this. And then we got Sheryl Swoopes. There it is. Swoopes, there it is. Sheryl Swoopes couldn't help but embarrass herself. Because let's be honest, imagine if Caitlyn Clark had been the one to get her signature sneaker first. Picture this. Clark signs a massive deal. Nike unveils the Caitlyn one, and you already know what would have happened. The internet would have exploded. The same people who are now showering A'ja with love would have suddenly had a laundry list of complaints. She hasn't earned it, they'd say. What about the veterans? They'd cry. And you know who would have led the charge? Sheryl Swoopes. Because of course she would. And guess what? This is exactly how it played out months ago. And right on cue, there's Swoopes. The moment A'ja's shoe dropped, Swoopes was front and center, pom-poms in hand, cheering like she was at a college pep rally. The same Sheryl Swoopes who can't seem to let a week go by without taking some kind of backhanded swipe at Caitlyn Clark. Funny how that works, right? When it's Wilson, it's all love. But when it's Caitlyn breaking records, carrying the league, and earning every deal she gets, Suddenly, Swoops turns into the WNBA's personal gatekeeper, reminding us all that, back in her day, things were different. That Clark wasn't dominant. Nobody's taking anything away from Wilson. She's a 3-time MVP, a champion, and absolutely deserves this moment. But it's the hypocrisy for me. It's the way certain players and fans switch up depending on who's winning. If Caitlyn Clark is in the headlines, it's favoritism. If Asia's in the headlines, it's hard work paying off. Make it make sense. And it wasn't just the shoe. This has been a pattern since day one. When Caitlyn entered the league, she didn't get a warm welcome. She got elbows to the ribs, cheap fouls, petty digs in interviews, and all while fans on social media turned into a mob, making her the target of every bit of frustration they had with the WNBA's growth. You would think a player bringing millions of new fans, boosting ticket sales, and breaking viewership records would be celebrated. And Wilson? She's part of that old guard now. Whether she wants to admit it or not, she's in that circle. The circle that's been watching Caitlyn Clark revolutionize the league and doing everything in their power to downplay it. It's subtle sometimes. A passive-aggressive comment here, a shady tweet there. Or sometimes it's just silence, letting others do the dirty work while you keep your hands clean. But here's the thing. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need their approval. She's got the fans. She's got the viewership. She's got the records. And now, her shoe is on its way. All while taking elbows, cheap fouls, and hate from every direction, and never once lowering herself to their level. Meanwhile, Wilson is celebrating her A1 sneaker. Good for her. She deserves it. But let's not pretend we didn't see how she got here. Let's not ignore the fact that her rise came with the help of a league that's been far more protective of her than they've ever been of Caitlyn Clark. And let's not act like the Aces dynasty isn't looking shaky. Kelsey Plum's out here throwing shade after she got traded to Los Angeles. Chelsea Gray isn't as good as she used to be after her injury. Sydney Colson, their locker room glue, just joined the Fever. And while Asia's fans are busy blaming Indiana for every little thing, the Fever are quietly building a championship squad. Caitlyn Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Dewana Bonner, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, and a front office that's been cooking all off-season. The WNBA is changing, and the veterans know it. Caitlyn Clark is not just the future, she's the present. That's why the billboards are going up. That's why ticket prices are skyrocketing. That's why networks are fighting for broadcasting rights. She's not just a player, she's a movement. And the league can either embrace it or get left behind. So while Asia's showing off her sneakers, she might want to look over her shoulder. Because the team that her fans can't stop crying about, they're coming. And Caitlyn Clark, she's not just coming for her own sneaker line, she's coming for that MVP, she's coming for that championship, and the way the Fever are stacking up, they might just get both. So go ahead, Asia. Enjoy the shoe launch. Cheryl Swoops, keep sending those congratulatory tweets. But don't act surprised when the player you've been trying to tear down is the one holding the trophy at the end of the season. Because while the rest of the league is talking, Caitlyn Clark is working. And soon, she won't just be wearing her own signature shoe. She'll be standing on top of the WNBA.